naturalists try and put together programs. He really talks about this in Sand County Almanac. He talks about awareness, value, and action. How many of you guys are ready for a PowerPoint? Okay, I'm going from high tech to no tech. Here's our model here. A lot of times when people think about this awareness, value, action, they think of it as being in a straight line. Awareness, value, then action. Actually, this works very well to be circular. Let me give you an example. You're driving home today, your car starts making a funny sound, okay? Ding, there's your awareness. Something is going wrong with your car. So you're aware. How much you value your car will decide what you do next. If you don't value your car at all, you keep driving, take it home, hopefully it fixes itself. Okay, if you kind of value it, you'll stop maybe at a auto parts store and try and fix it yourself. Okay, there's some value there. If you really, really value that car, you're going to pull over, stop it, and call somebody to come tow it, pay the extra expense, and have them fix it. Okay, how much you value decides what your next action is. And the reason I put it in a circle is because once you are back at the action step, creates a new sense of awareness. I live in Madrid. Part of the reason we bought the house that we're in was I heard orioles in the tree when we were looking at the house, and we found garter snakes, which I found out later my wife hates. That's okay. When we moved in, I was putting up some bird feeders, and the neighbor lady says, "Oh, you like birds?" And I said, "Yeah, I feed birds, and I've fed them for years." She goes, "I used to, but then my son put up this squirrel box, and those darn owls moved in." I'm like, "Darn owls, eh?" So I went and made a kestrel box, and as soon as I had it up, 2 days later, 2 screech owls moved in there. I'm like, yes, I've got screech owl. So I wasn't aware that we had owls in town. I'm 5 blocks off of Highway 17. I wasn't aware that we could have screech owls in town. I value them, so I made a box. They moved in. A week after that, 2 wood ducks were sitting on that same box. Like, I didn't know we had wood ducks. We're a mile from water. I wasn't aware that we had wood ducks. I value them, so I made 2 wood duck boxes and put them in the backyard. The squirrels moved in. Okay, after they had their young, Flicker moved in. She had 13 eggs. I didn't know they went that high, and again, I had to go to a field guide. 13 babies. So all of a sudden, my backyard, I'm 5 blocks or 5 houses off of a major highway, and I've got all this wildlife going on in my house. So once you are aware of something, how much you value it decides what your action, and this is circular. So so why do we teach? What do the birds have to teach us? Well, first of all, there's the obvious things that birds teach us. And this is where as science, a lot of time we like, oh, it teaches us predator-prey. It teaches us survival of the fittest, or teaches us commensal roosting, or all this science stuff. Is that what really gets kids excited about going outdoors? I jotted some things down just kind of in jest on my way here today. Like, what do the birds teach us? There's strength in numbers. Live life with a purpose. Follow your heart. Love to travel, but be glad when you come home. Be ready to discard excess baggage. Have you seen what birds do when they get scared and get ready to fly? My bird will do it today in this program. Prepare for hard times ahead. Mate for life. Bathe often. Go south when it gets cold. This is not the stuff that, this is not going to get it's not the stuff that's going to get kids outside. So why do we teach birds? First of all, they are common. How many of you have been to Des Moines? How many of you have been to the Capitol building? How many of you are familiar with the school Capitol view that's just to the east of the Capitol building? I do programs with them a lot. And I'm like, these poor kids, these poor urban kids just live in this stark landscape. They see nothing living in this hardcore urban world. And so I'm like, how many of you have seen a bald eagle? They all raise their hands. When I went to the 3rd grade classroom, they all started talking because they'd had an experience like a week before on the playground. How many are familiar with the 6th Avenue Bridge? It's right below the spillway there. There's like 15 bald eagles that sit there all winter long. It's like, these kids have bald eagles in downtown Des Moines. Okay, whatever. How many of you know what a peregrine falcon is? Okay, on the east side of the state capitol, they have nested the last 3 years. Okay, these kids know what a peregrine falcon is. I'm like, these aren't deprived urban kids. We have We project what we think is what is wildlife and where wildlife is. These kids have seen woodcocks down there. They've seen waterfowl like crazy. I mean, they could identify this. So birds are common. They are everywhere, which makes them a good something to study. No matter where you're at, they're going to be there. They are everywhere. We were roofing our house, tearing the shingles off. There's no such thing as a roofing party. It's one or the other. We were tearing this roof off, and we had some friends coming over from England, and there was tornado warnings going on kind of where we're at. I'm like, geez, you know, with tornado warnings, we should probably be putting tarps on our roof and stuff rather than driving around looking for tornadoes. So we loaded up in this car, and there was 2 systems that were kind of coming towards us, and I'm just scanning. I'm like, we're not going to see anything. We never do. I'm looking, and there are hundreds of thousands of swallows. I'm like, why would the swallows be here during a tornado? Okay. Well, if you have 2 storms sucking up every ounce of energy from a 15 county area, it's sucking up every insect with it. So why would you stay home, you know, in the corn crib when every insect is going into these storms? So it's even in a tornado, hey, there's birds. Let's see how many species of swallow. Next time, so any of you who are trying to be amateur meteorologists, next time you see swallows, you know what that means? Yeah, bad weather is coming. They are everywhere. They're pretty. Birds are pretty if you haven't noticed. Here's what Leopold said about the beauty. Our ability to perceive quality in nature begins, as in art, with the pretty, expands through successive stages of the beautiful to values as yet uncaptured by language. The quality of sandhill cranes lies, I think, in this higher gamut, as yet beyond the reach of words. How many of you have seen a redheaded woodpecker? That is a pretty, pretty bird. I do birding classes every once in a while. I was with 2 8th grade boys, okay? 8th grade, trying to get an 8th grader excited about anything is very difficult. Most of the time they are mocking you. And it was hot, birding was kind of slow, and I'm like, how do I motivate these 2 8th grade boys? We see a red-winged blackbird and they're like, wow. You could honestly feel just like that they were excited about this bird. And I'm looking at like, how do I tell 8th grade boys that is a pretty bird? I said, you guys look at the colors on this. Just look at it for a second. I don't know what's going to be in fashion when you go to the prom. Okay, I don't know if cummerbunds are going to be cool or bow ties are going to be cool, but look at what a lot of black, a little white carefully placed, and shiny red looks like. And they were just like, yeah, you could kind of see like they made a little mental note like the prom. I need to remember the redheaded woodpecker. They're pretty. Those birds are pretty. Birding is great because there's good resources. It's not like geology, you pick up a rock like, I'm not sure what this is. There's great books. There's great field guides. There's great audio guides. There's great organizations that will help you. You know, these birding festivals are not to like just look at how much I know. The whole idea is to get you into this stuff and help you figure out what this is. So find your local Audubon chapter. You're just like, I don't know anything about birds. Good. We will take you out and help teach you what those are. So there's good resources. Birding is a great gateway. You know, they say if marijuana is a gateway to drugs, I always say birding is the gateway to studying nature and the outdoors. They are, I teach a birding class, and when I start my class, I always say, kids, today I want to give you a gift. How many like to get presents? Oh, me. How many like to give presents? Not so many. I'm going to give you a gift that is, you will never be bored again. Your life, those sad days will turn into happy days. You will, even in the nighttime, this will keep you from being bored. Long car rides will turn into adventures. If you have a choice of whether you go into the store or stay out in the car, you will choose to stay out in the car. And the kids are like, what is this? I'm like, it's the gift of birding. And you just kind of see their face. They try and keep the expression, but you can just tell like this. We're going to have to do this for 2.5 hours. You can just see they are not about this. Well, then we take them out and we go birding with them, and you can just see they just start waking. There's an awakening. They start getting excited. By the end of the class, and that's how I close. I'm like, how many of you today, when I told you we were going to go birding, thought it was going to be boring? You're not going to hurt my feelings. They all raise your hand. How many thought it was exciting? How many of you will do it again? I mean, they love it. They didn't realize that there was going to be this awakening for them. Birds are active. You know, I love prairie plants, but it's like, you know, don't get me wrong, there's stuff going on underneath in the soil, but, you know, if I come back tomorrow, that's going to be in the same spot. I mean, Birds are going to move around and interact with the environment. They might mess with a squirrel. Squirrel might mess back with them. A cat comes out, they start making noise. They're active and they're interactive. We do a class called Silent Watch where we sit with the kids the last day and we have them all write poetry. And I'm right there with them. We go in the woods and we just kind of spread ourselves out and we're just quiet, and I tell them to sit still. We had a flock of ruby-crowned kinglets. If you know those guys, they have a hard time sitting still. And I could just see them. You could just see these kids kind of like, what's going on? And this little flock just worked 2 and 3 feet away from kids, and you can see them like looking at me and then looking back at the bird like they didn't think this was going to get that close. The birds are active and interactive. They are a challenge. Any of you who work with kids, when you give them a skill, you teach them how to shoot a bow and arrow, all of a sudden you can see this excitement. I have kids from Harding come out, and 2 years ago, I usually don't try and identify every little dinky yellow warbler because I can tell what they are, but to get 30 kids to see it and be patient enough to sit still, and they're not going to see it. So I just kind of ignore those. Well, I've got this kid who's right on my hip. He's just like, what's that little yellow one? I'm like, we don't worry about that. He's like, it's got orange on its chest. I'm like, let's look in the book. So it was a yellow warbler. He's picking up all this stuff, and all the other kids are like, how does he know this? How's he doing it? I'm just like, he's just got that eagle eye. And you could see he's getting this new skill. He saw a bluebird. You could tell it was the first bluebird he had ever seen. And for him to see it in binoculars, he was literally touched. That kid was like, he turned to me and said, Mike Marsh, what is your favorite bird? And I said, today it's the bluebird. I could just see this kid was awake. He said, mine too. And I was like, wow, those kids get skills. You can see that confidence they build on there. There's a connection. There's a sense of joy and a sense of wonder. Anybody familiar with the sandhill cranes right now in Nebraska? If you're going on spring break, I know it doesn't sound very sexy, and everybody else is going to Cancun, and you say, we're going to central Nebraska. If you want to see a wildlife spectacle, 500,000 4-foot birds are all getting together. You can visibly see 10,000 of them throwing corn cobs up in the air as they're doing a display. There's another 1,000 kettling around you, and there's another 6,000 that are flying over in a giant, jet formation. Okay, that is a wildlife spectacle. You cannot say that there is not a sense of joy there. How many of you are familiar with DeSoto Bend, just right here in western Iowa? You don't have to go to Africa to see this stuff. I mean, there's 500,000 snow geese that get up at one time. It stops sounding like a snow goose. It sounds like a spaceship taking off. It's not, it's shh. I mean, it is, and then you kind of lose your perspective of where the horizon is. 500,000 of these. Again, let's go to Des Moines. You don't have to go to an old growth forest. We were down at the state capitol, and I was trying to show some of my staff this peregrine falcon. This red-tailed hawk comes in. Here comes this peregrine falcon. We hear him, kick, 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 kick. That red-tail turns around. We see this peregrine. He goes up, 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 and it's kind of a hazy March day. We couldn't see anything, and all of a sudden it just came in like a lightning bolt. He lands on the capitol. He's got something in his feet. The female comes out. He takes and drags it over the side, and she starts eating it. We're at the state capitol, and we get to see this bird moving at close to 200 miles an hour. I mean, that is a sense of wonder and the joy that those things bring.